Good morning, ARCA family. My name is Mr. Hanks. This is our agenda for the week of September 16th through September 20th. We're going to go ahead and get started with lesson 1, but before we get started, I have to do a full introduction of the unit that we're getting into. And maybe, just maybe, by the end of this unit, you might be calling this unit the most popular unit of them all. Awesome. So this is Unit 2, the changing nation. Our nation is growing and evolving. We're looking around the 1880s to around the early 1920s. That's what we're going to be kind of looking at in this unit right here. We're going to be looking at different types of movements, like the progressive movement, the populist movement. We'll be looking at other intriguing things about this time period. So this is chapter 1, industrialization, immigration, and urbanization. Okay? Our framework question: how did immigration, industrialization, and urbanization change America in the late 1800s and early 1900s? Okay, so this is pretty much just an outline, everything we're going to be looking at for the chapter, our standards, a list of things you need to know, causes and effects of the Second Industrial Revolution, including urbanization and its effects, push and pull factors, all those types of things. Make sure you got this, all our objectives as well lined up. Okay, don't freak out at this. Okay, we got a very expansive vocabulary list this time, okay? So, and I mean, this ain't it either. Like, there's a whole second page. But we're going to get more into this in a minute. Let me introduce the reading first. So this is lesson 1. So this is going to be Monday, September 16th. That is what the main video is going to focus on this time. Immigration and fear. Immigration and fear. We're going to summarize the causes and effects of immigration to the United States during the late 1800s and early 1900s. Okay, so while we do this video, I want to point out, and I talked with them already on the other teachers, we are taking this lesson, the second set of questions, as a practice grade, and we are taking the flashcard as a mastery grade. And the links are going to be up in our agenda as well as Schoology to submit. Okay, so go ahead. You're going to answer this bell ringer. Why are people willing to risk their lives to come to the United States of America? What benefits are here? Why would people want to leave their home countries and come to the United States, the greatest country in the world? Yeah, I want you to find those answers. Anyway, all right, moving on. So we have 2 readings on the menu for Monday. Who immigrated and why? And the realities of immigration. Okay? What I want you to do is, you're going to read the first one, who immigrated and why. And you're going to take some notes while you do this, and you're going to answer these 3 questions. What pushed Irish people to leave Ireland for the United States beginning in 1845? Why did more than 1 million Germans immigrate to the United States between 1845 and 1855? And why did Jewish people immigrate to the United States? Everyone has their own reason for coming. And it is stated perfectly in the reading for each. Your job is to go into the reading. You are going to pull out every reason why these 3 groups of people left their home countries and came to the United States. And what were they looking for? Now, before we continue, there are some vocabulary words. We're also getting on immigration as of right now. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Giller with the word wall.
All right. So, as Mr. Hanks said, we have a huge amount of vocabulary words. So we want to pay attention to some of these. Some of these you're going to see in this first reading. Of course, the first one, pretty obvious low-hanging fruit, is immigration. So as we said, immigration is the act of coming to live permanently in a new country. What you're going to also see through that is you're going to notice that some of these people are not just these Europeans. You're going to see that not only Europeans come in, but also Asians come in as we get later on into things. And so a good mnemonic device to help you remember these things, especially for LEAP, is that we have 2 areas of entry into our country. That is Ellis Island. We're going to get to that, as well as Angel Island. So Ellis Island is on the eastern coast, and Angel Island is on the western coast. And so a good way to remember that is who came in Ellis Island. E starts for Ellis. Ellis starts with E, excuse me. So Europeans. Angel starts with A, so that's going to be your Asian. So just a good way to help remember a little of these things. So it's going to be a hard thing to get through to hold to April. So the more that we can give you things to remember, the better it's going to be for you. Hopefully that sticks with you because it's an easy way to get it. But with this immigration, as I've covered a little bit with my classes, is that we have an expansion of the industries as well. We have a booming of our industries. And so we have this industrialization that comes in as well. That's a shift to the widespread use of machines and factories to produce goods. So as we have more people coming in, we have more opportunities for jobs, but we also have more need for goods to come in. So we have all of these differences that come in. And we have a growth that we see in our cities. So urbanization is the formation and growth of cities. So cities start to boom, just like we talked about westward expansion and having more people move across the nation. We were running out of space on the East Coast. These places are starting to boom even more. There's some good and some bad that comes with that. We're gonna see how that actually plays out in this whole chapter. As things go along, do we have enough room for everybody in these cities? What does the government actually do to provide for these people, or lack doing? Then we also have economy, which I think it's a pretty easy one, but to define that, the way a country manages its money and resources to produce, buy, and sell goods and services. So one big thing is during the 1800s, the US kind of shifted from this farming that we had into more of this industrialization. As we said, we start to produce more. We go away from just doing crops into products. As we get into the 1920s, it becomes more interesting for us because we start to produce all of these things like toasters and refrigerators. And as we get longer and longer into it, until World War II, that's where we start to see a shift of overproduction, which we'll talk about later. But we also have, our first turning point here. As we said, with industrialization, we have the booming of the cities and urbanization, and we have the economy going back and forth, but we also have this word called malnutrition. Kind of peeks into what exactly is going on. Is the government able to provide for all of these people? Because malnutrition means a state of poor health due to not having enough healthy food. So we can see that maybe this is not such the greatest thing, and what does the government need to do to intervene? Do they actually intervene? And yet, as we just got done with this last chapter, we still haven't forgotten that we're super racist in this country. And with that, we still have discrimination, as we talked about with African Americans, but not only African Americans, but we have this new group coming in that are these Europeans, these Asians, these Jewish people, all of these Irish people. We see this big contrast that comes in. Now, the worst part to it too is that there's not a great way to distinguish between most of the white Americans and these others, besides if you just open your mouth and speak. Where at least with African Americans, there was a clear distinction. So this gets really hairy because now you have people that look just like other Americans and we're being super racist to them too. But how you distinguish who has been here, who grew up here, etc. So really, really spicy stuff. And that's what leads into our next definition that's called nativism. Our nativism is kind of where we become this super pride into things. But I believe that goes into our next reading, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Hanks. So before we get there, we'll talk about this one a little bit more extreme in just a second, but I'm going to give it back to Mr. Hanks to kind of introduce that next lesson for you.
Thank you, Mr. Giller. All right, so once again, this is the questions for the first reading. But don't forget, we also have a second reading on that menu. Don't worry about the conclusion. The realities of immigration. Now we're going to start looking at the causality and reasons of why people want to come to the United States and what was their goal. And I keep referring back to this in my class, but that American dream, keeping that dream alive, that is going to be kind of referenced in this one too. So go ahead, take some notes as you read, answer these three questions. What types of jobs did most immigrants take? And another thing I kind of want to add in with immigration was, not only are we seeing people come in, but we're also starting to see new people with different skill sets. So now the United States is kind of growing in diversity and specialization. Originally, it was just the South with agriculture, the North with factories, and now we're starting to grow more specifics. We're seeing more blacksmiths. We're seeing people that specialize in different medicines, treatments, and stuff. All that plays a role in what helps us become the juggernaut of a country that we are. What factors contributed to nativism, which we just kind of discussed in there? How did the experience of Chinese immigrants compare to immigrants from Europe? Why did their experience differ? So for that one, pay very close attention to some of the issues that they went through even coming to the United States and in the United States. So those are some of the things I kind of want y'all paying attention, because we're starting to realize, unlike with the Native Americans, you can't just force a group of people to give up their culture, their religion, and their ways. We have to start accepting that and becoming a true melting pot of a society that we are today. Okay, don't worry about the conclusion. This is what I'm taking for my mastery. I think we all kind of agree that'll be our mastery grade for Monday. How did immigration, industrialization, urbanization change America in the late 1800s and early 1900s? So how do you see us transforming? How do you see us growing as a country using the readings and the flashcard? And do not worry about the exit ticket. And that will take us to lesson 2, which is a primary activity. But that is it for the first video. This is for Monday, September 16th. And remember, grow your minds, grow your hearts, live the arc away. Thank you very much. Good night.